Well, good evening, and welcome, and thank you so much for joining me this evening on the In Review, where we look at some of the top news or some of the news, and just having a discussion really on this Thursday evening, Thursday the 10th of the 7th, and the 10th of the 7th is where we're starting the July, and July, of course, is halfway. Well, actually, we passed halfway to to the year almost completed as well. I want to thank those who are joining me on Instagram, those who are joining me on TikTok, those who are joining me on Facebook, and especially those on YouTube. Welcome and good evening and good evening. This is interview just going to be myself tonight. I also have this um, discussion. Unfortunately, I can't take any co-host at this time on TikTok until the hour or so. Uh, you know, so I like to ask is what would you say is your top news of the week so far? What would you say is your top news? What would you say is your top news? What is the I always like to say what is the what should I say the trending news? If you sort of close your eyes, what would you say is the trending news? And the trending news, as I can see, is Macron and Starmer meeting and at the number 10 Downing Street. Macron was also able to give a presentation to the House of Commons. This is something which is very interesting because Trump is going to be doing that at some point. And I'm sure there's going to be some sort of backlash, if anything, when Trump go ahead and Trump do this. But that is what is there as the presidents when they come, they give a speech to the House of Commons. I was watching the speech and I was watching the prime minister. I was watching Kemi as well. Sometimes she claps, sometimes she don't clap, because of course there are differences in opinion at this time as well. But one of the big breaking news which has come out of this whole thing, and it is this: it is the one in one out policy or pilot scheme which they are planning to do, and this is to deal with the migrant issues. The migrant issue has been around for a long time. The migrant issue has been around long time. The migrant issues was even started in the transatlantic slavery movement. So therefore it is nothing new really, and it is trying to see how one can address and how to deal with this. I one time said that uh, the borders are so. If the borders are released, if the borders are open, you'll be surprised. You may find less people actually coming in, if anything. But that's just a fleeting thought which I had. One in, one out deal. What is it? What is this one in, one out? And the whole thing about this is, let me see. I just had something here. Where is it? Come on, come down here. Is it what is this one in one out deal? Yeah, and this is what it is. And thanks for those who are joining me on TikTok. Please feel free to like and share those on Facebook as well. Please, it'd be great for you to share, and those on Instagram as well. The one in, one out deal, as they say, is a new pilot agreement between the UK under Prime Minister Keir Starmer and France to address the issues of migrants crossing the English Channel in small boats. Right? Dealing with migrants crossing the English Channel in boats. For every migrant, and this is what it says, for every migrant who arrives in the UK via a small boat and is returned to France, one out, the UK will accept one asylum seeker from France, one in who applies through a new legal and control route. Many are saying that the Prime Minister has somewhat lost it. I remember in the previous government had started the whole process of this Rwanda deal, and it did not really take effect because the elections came up. But they said it started a whole deterrent factor in the psyche, the mindset of persons. persons who are planning to come to the UK, they know that they're going to be shipped to Rwanda. And I always say, but what's wrong with Rwanda? Yeah. What's wrong with Africa? That's one of the big things. What is wrong with Africa? What is wrong with Rwanda? Many people say that with Rwanda, you still had the effect of the past of the genocide of the Hutus and Tutsi, and they say it wasn't really up to a certain standard. But there was a plan in place, somewhat to sort of thwart and somewhat discourage migrants from coming to the UK. It seemed like Keir Starmer do not have his hand on it. It seems like the government has no plan, right? And he said, for every migrant who arrives in the UK via small boat and is returned to France, one out the UK will accept one asylum seeker from France, one in who applies through a new legal and country route. The scheme, they said, is designed to target people smuggling gangs and discourage dangerous channels crossing by making it clear that those arriving illegally will be sent back while providing a legal route for genuine asylum seekers with family ties to the UK. How will it work? And that's the question many people are asking. How will it work? Because it's a new scheme and it's a pilot scheme at present. What they're saying is detention and return. Migrants arriving in the UK by small boat will be detained, and if they cannot prove a family connection to the UK, return to France. So therefore, that is something where a lot of persons are having some issues with. Yeah. A legal route for asylum seekers. For each person returned to the returned, the UK will accept an asylum seeker from France who has not tried to enter the UK illegally, prioritizing those with genuine family links or who are most vulnerable. Pilot scheme. The agreement will start as a pilot, reportedly involving around 50 people per week in each direction, with potential to expand if successful. I can see reform, you know, holding their hands and clapping their hands in glee. Holding their hands and clapping their hands in glee is because they have realized that Labour has missed it. Of recent days, you had the French authorities, and what they were doing, they were slashing some boats. Well, one boat or two boats, I believe, which came closer to the shore, because if they slash the boats or puncture it a bit outside or out of the shore, chances are on the possibility of death, and no one wants a death to be on them with the migrants. So the big issue is, how is this addressed? How can it be dealt with? Nobody really knows. Nobody really knows. But is it the impact and the effect of years of karma coming back? The key points is that the purpose is the deal aimed to break the business model of criminal smuggling gangs and reduce dangerous channel crossings. Will it? Aim to break the business model of criminal smuggling gangs and reduce dangerous channel crossing. Eligibility. Only those who have not attempted illegal entry will be eligible for the legal route to the UK. Anyone returned to France will not be eligible for this route. So what they're saying is that you come across illegally and then you can be caught into society. Now, personally, I don't have a problem with immigrants trying to make a better life for themselves. There should be a system and there should be a structure as well. But it's very difficult to say because one knows that a lot of people are somewhat struggling based on resources or the lack of resources. Government is not able to deal with resources. Someone knocked on my door today and they said that they're doing a charity for lots of children who are you know, getting operation and they're going to the hospital and they need help. And I said to the person, So you're knocking on my door asking for help, but lots of children going to the hospital in the UK. In the UK. And I said, this is what you need to tell your minders and tell the charity which you're under to speak to Keir Starmer, because there's always funds. There's always money when it comes on to war. To war. Sorry about that. There's always money when it comes on to war. Right? And 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 there's a level of ring fence which is put around children, even with local authorities as well. Right? There's a ring fence which is there. So I said, you need to speak to the authorities, because even right now, what the doctors are trying to do, the doctors are saying that we need more money. Now, the health secretary is saying, hang on a second, you guys just got 28.9%, the biggest. That's one of the great thing which the government said they did to try to stop this whole process, this whole striking which was happening on and on, right? Anyway, where did I reach there and how did I reach there? you know, but it is something that I would love to hear person's views as to the whole thing, because there are bigger fishes to fry. There's the whole issue of which we won't go into now with reparation, the whole issue of apologies, you know, because there's something big and sinister still which is not being addressed, which is not talked about. Yeah. And so if we go further, the criticisms and the challenges. Hey, Scorcher, how are you doing? Oh, Alex, Live Perry, thank you for joining the live. Those on TikTok, those on Instagram, Marcos Walters, welcome. Those on Facebook, welcome. Remember to share and let us hear what we got to say. The criticisms and the challenges. The numbers involved in the pilot, they say, are small compared to the total number of channel crossing. So the immediate impact may be limited, they say. You know, legal and human rights concerns. Critics argue the policy may undermine the right to seek asylum and lighten the approach to a nightclub door policy or previous controversial schemes. Operational details. The exact criteria for selection and the long term effectiveness remain unclear, and the policy's success will depend on cooperation and legal approval from both UK, France, and the EU. We have seen a new MP was the former chair or co-chair of the Conservative Party have jumped over to reform. We have seen the uh, Jeremy Corbyn and Sultana planning a new party. The UK is no more a country which is two political parties, Conservative and Labour. It is now blended. Reform is rising on the rise. And Reform, they'll say, is one of the right wing strong party. Some are saying it is a sister party of the Conservatives. But when you listen to Kemi Badenoch, and I'm going to play her question time today, but there was a discussion that she had with the justice, one of the a branch, which spoke about, is she afraid of Nigel Farage? Is UK afraid of Nigel Farage? And when they say afraid of Nigel Farage, is it that Nigel Farage is coming with a level of support? Is it from the majority of Brits? Is it? Is it that the majority of Brits are speaking the language of Nigel Farage? Was it the majority of Brits speaking the language of Brexit? Right? And that's a big question, because many will say that many are jumping ship, leaving the Conservative, breaking away from Labour in a way to try to deal with the right factor. But what about this silent majority? Hi, Sharika. What about this silent majority which is there, which is looking for a home? A lot of people are looking for a political home at this time. A lot of people are looking for a political home. Let me just take up something. Many people are looking for a political home. Let's see if I can get this out of the way. Okay. Yeah. What's that there? Yeah. Bingo. Yeah, many people are looking for a political home, and that is, you know, and that is something which is very, that is something which is very 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 crucial. I must say at this time. So we watch and see how this whole thing with the migrant issue, how it's going to unfold. And of course, I might go on TikTok later and sort of open the discussion, open the conversation to hear what persons say about that. A second thing also is in talking about the UK return to some migrants and France within weeks. I should say Macron said the scheme would have a deterrent effect beyond the numbers return. He said Brexit had made it harder for the UK to tackle illegal migration, arguing that the British people were sold a lie, which is that the problem was Europe. So Macron has come to the UK to say that the UK was sold a lie. That's by Boris Johnson, by Cameron, and all these other people. Well, Cameron sort of came out of it. During the press conference, the two leaders also announced that their countries would coordinate their nuclear deterrence, strengthen collaboration on supercomputers and AI, speed up and accelerate cooperation on anti-ship missiles. You know, so there's a lot of discussions there, and and when we look at the like what is happening now, for argument's sake, Russia, Ukraine, we are seeing that Russia has somewhat intensified. Russia is intensified. I was with a Ukraine person the other day, and I said, "Oh, it's very quiet, not hearing much what's happening in Russia and Ukraine. It's also very quiet as to what is happening in Gaza. There's a somewhat of a silence. I said, what is really in the news? Because is it the news as somewhat tired of these issues? But at the same time, Russia is intensifying drone war, spreading fear, and eroding Ukrainian morale. I sometimes ask this question, and I sometimes say this at many times. Genocide going on everywhere. Yes, I always say this all the while. How long is a piece of string? How long will this continue? Should there be some sort of deal, some sort of giving up some bits or some areas? Should there be looking at the priority as lives? Russia have a policy whereby wherever our feet tread is ours, something like the scriptures. Wherever your soul of your feet tread shall be mine. That's what Russia is actually maybe saying. The people of Kiev, like the citizens of other Ukrainian citizens, have been through a lot. 3.5 years of fluctuating fortunes, tough and extremely resilient. But in recent months, they have been experiencing somewhat new, vast, coordinated waves of attacks from the air involving hundreds of drones and missiles, often concentrated on a single city. Now we talk about boots on the grounds. And when we talk about boots on the grounds, you question, is there and will there be the need for boots on the ground? Because guess what? At the end of the day, no one is actually putting out boots on the ground. They're putting drones in the air. It's called missile in the air. No one is going to be going with boots on the ground as they talk about things like conscription, etc., etc., etc. Russia intensifies. Donald Trump said, I'll sort this out once I'm in. I'll sort it out in a day. When he realized that, well, it's just like God. A day is like a year. A year is like a day or so, like that. Not going to happen so quick. Welcome, Bubbly. Welcome, Tam. Welcome, Rennie Smith. Thank you for joining. Remember to like, like and share the live. I'm talking about some of the top news which is happening in the UK here. What we see as the top news. Kiev, Ukraine have been experiencing somewhat vast coordinated waves of attacks from the air. Deadly new Russian drones and missile attack hits Kiev. Last night it was Kiev, and the week before too. In between it was Lutsk in the far west. 3 years ago, Iranian supplied Shahad drones were a relatively novelty. You know, keep saying I hear my first buzzing as a lazy arc across the night sky above the southern city of Zaporozhye in October 2022. When will this end? Will it end or will it continue until the total resources of Ukraine is depleted and is no more? Because it seems like the America hasn't got an answer. It seems like Europe hasn't got an answer. They're biting, they're making a lot of barking noise, but do they have the bite? Are they afraid of the strongman Putin? Good question. What do you think? Afraid of the strongman, or should there be somewhat like a coming to coming to the realization that one has got to surrender or come to some serious fundamental deal? Because 3.5 years, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up, and it shouldn't be. That's what Donald Trump says. So many people dying, just dying, 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 or unalive, unalive, unalive. Let me just clarify those words because of TikTok, because of TikTok as well. What do you guys think? What do you think? They said the sounds of swarms of approaching drones have sent hardened civilians back to bomb shelters, the metro, underground, car parks, for the first time since the early days of the war. The house shook like it was made of paper, a Kiev resident said after the last night heavy bombardment high in Blackwall Street. Welcome. What is the resolution? What is the solution? Now if you switch and if you move over now into the whole aspect of, where is it? I'm gonna find the one that I got something here which I was talking about regarding um the Middle East. In the Middle East, you're seeing young children now, children queuing for supplementals, supplements unalive in Israel, striking Gaza. Hospital says Ukraine has to negotiate directly with Russia. I would agree with that. And if they don't, if Ukraine don't, they'll just keep being depleted, 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 and be no more. Because whether we like it or not, they are no match to Russia. That's the reality. And I don't think the other countries, want to really get into a tussle with Russia. Hence the reason why they're all standing on the periphery as well. America don't want to get into it. Russia, the EU, Britain. As a matter of fact, it's unfortunate for the Britain and unfortunate for the UK because the UK is like a small fry. The prime minister we have, based on my perspective, is a bit weak. There's no sort of gravitas. What I understand from a Ukrainian friend, and he said they love Boris Johnson. You know, Boris Johnson was one who stood the ground and stand up for them. With Keir Starmer, one doesn't see, what should I say, a resolve and a conviction Once see a person just going with a particular flow and wanting to seek or to have some sort of relevance in Europe, hanging out with the guys. It is like sometimes, you know, a person have a position and they don't know they got a position. It is like you are the prime minister, but somehow you're operating like you're not the prime minister. It was like when Trump was president before. I think he knows he's president now. I don't believe Trump knew that he was president in the first term. You know, um, sorry. Uh, Let me block that. Sorry, just a call coming. Sorry, just to say, da da da. Sorry, on my show. Uh, da 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 da. Yes, can't talk because if I don't say that, person will keep calling. Alexandria something join live. They blah 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 blah. Yep. So anyway, going back into what is happening in Ukraine, in not in Israel. Children queuing for supplements killed in Israel's strike in Gaza, hospital says. At least 15 Palestinians, including 8 children and 2 women, have been killed. Children queuing, ladies and gentlemen. Children queuing for food. It is very heartbreaking, I must say. It is very heartbreaking when you see what is happening over there in the Middle East. It is totally heartbreaking. It is very sad situation when people actually have to be lining up, um, begging for food as well. And I don't think they got the answer. Anyone think they got the answer? No, they do not have the answer. No, I don't think they got the answer in the Middle East. And really and truly, I think um I was going to say that Hamas the they should actually be releasing um they should be releasing those persons. And one of the unfortunate thing what I got to understand is that they're also is that they're also having some of the DEAD bodies, the unalive bodies of some of the former terrorists as well. People who were being unalive during the whole thing. It is a sad occasion. It is a sad occasion. You know, US based aid group Project Hope, which runs a clinic, said the attack was a blatant violation of international law. Israeli military said it struck a Hamas terrorist and regretted any harm to civilians. But there's been another breaking news here in the UK. And the breaking news in the UK is that Iran has somehow sent out, or they said there's a chances of, you know, cells or sleeper cells waking up and creating some havoc in the UK. So people have got to be very careful. People have got to be shrewd as they go about in the UK as well, because things as I understand it is not going to get pretty. Yeah. Interesting days. Interesting days. Somebody said there's okay. So if there's no sleeper cells and they're awake, is it? Because there's a view that they are, and 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 who am I to say there's none? Or maybe you know that there's none, and who am I to say there is? Yeah, or is it just propaganda? Is it? Is it just propaganda which you're talking about? Is it propaganda? Yeah. But anyway, I want to play Kemi Badenoch at Prime Minister's Question Time, and And while I'm watching Kemi Badenoch, I'm watching and looking at her, and I hope people are actually watching and looking at her because she's becoming a very formidable opponent, and she's growing in her position. I believe she's growing in her position. I think she's growing in her position. I don't know what people think, but I think she is growing in her position as the leader of the opposition. And you know, as far as I'm concerned, I I I wouldn't hold out that the next election is going to be in 5 years' time or 4 years' time because we have got 1 year already. It could be any time because according to how the prime minister is operating, there could be some vote of no confidence or so like that. But anyhow, let's listen what Kemi Badenoch is saying at prime minister's question time.
Mr. Speaker, can I echo the Prime Minister's sentiments about the horrific terrorist attack of July the 7th? I was pleased to be at the commemoration service on Monday, and in particular, our thoughts are with the families of those who lost their lives, those who had to go on without their loved ones. And Mr. Speaker, I would like to pay tribute to Lord Tebbit, who died yesterday at the age of 94. He was a man of iron integrity and conviction, who by his efforts helped to save our country from the chaos of the 1970s. We all owe him so much. Mr. Speaker, in their manifesto last year, Labour promised not to increase income tax, not to increase national insurance, and not to increase VAT. Does the Prime Minister still stand by his promises?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, it is rare. It is rare, yes. It is rare that he's able to give a clear answer, but I'm glad that he has done so. Because he also promised, in fact, he boasted that he solved the doctor strike. But only a prime minister who was so weak and giving 28% pay rise to doctors, only now we see that they're still voting to strike again. He folds in every negotiation and claims that it is a triumph. Yes, he does. And we saw at the budget, Mr. Speaker, more promises. The Chancellor promised that she would lift the freeze on income tax and national insurance thresholds because, in her words, they hurt working people. Is that still government policy?
If you want to make a full-time income from home, you need to know this one concept because there isn't. So if you want to make a
Mr. Speaker, no Prime Minister or Chancellor is going to write a budget in advance. We are absolutely fixed on our fiscal rules. We remain committed to them. We remain committed to our budget, to our manifesto commitments. I realise that sticking to your fiscal rules and your manifesto commitments is a bit unfamiliar to the party opposite, but it's because of the decisions the Chancellor took, that this government has taken, that we can update the House. £120 billion of inward investment into this country since we took office. Business confidence at a 9-year high. That's longer than the Leader Opposition has been in Parliament. Deloitte this week saying the UK is now the best place to invest, creating 384,000 jobs. What a contrast to the mess that we inherited from the party opposite.
Mr. Speaker, there was no clear answer there. The whole House would have heard him fail to rule out freezing tax thresholds. He could say it in the first question, he could promise, but he couldn't this time round. But what does this mean, Mr. Speaker? He's talking about record investment and more jobs. We know that people are losing their jobs. Unemployment has gone up under Labour every single month since it's their year in office. But what does it mean on this issue of tax thresholds? It means that under Labour, millions of our poorest pensioners face being dragged into income tax for the first time ever. Does the Prime Minister think it is right that struggling pensioners should face a retirement tax?
Mr. Speaker, for a Prime Minister or Chancellor to say we're not going to write a budget in advance isn't a Labour thing or a Tory thing. Every single Prime Minister and Chancellor says they won't. We will stick to our manifesto commitments. We will stick to our fiscal rules. This is a language they don't understand, which is why I have to. That's what got us into the problem in the first place. And while she comes here every week to talk the country down, that investment, record investment, £120 billion, That will be good, well-paid jobs across the country. And this investment, Mr. Speaker, is foreign investors who can choose whether to invest in this country. They're choosing to invest in this country now because they have confidence in what this government is doing.
Mr. Speaker, investors are fleeing the country. They're fleeing the country. He says he sticks to his manifesto promises. They promised not to put a tax on working people, and then we got the jobs tax. And all we have seen is jobs disappearing. Before the election, the Prime Minister promised, and I quote, "not a penny more on your council tax." The Institute for Fiscal Studies says that now council tax bills will rise at their fastest rate in 20 years. Will the Prime Minister admit that under him, council tax is set to soar?
No, of course it's not. It soared under the last government. But, Mr. Speaker, here she goes again, back on familiar territory. She comes here complaining about the national insurance rise every year, every week. She comes here complaining about it. And then when she's asked the question, well, would you have the courage then to reverse it? What's the answer? What's the answer? No! And I'll tell you for why. Because she's too embarrassed to say she doesn't want the investment we put in. That investment went to the NHS. They want the investment, they can't say how they're going to pay for it. That is what got us into the problem in the first place.
It very simple for him. This is a mess of his own making. He shouldn't be asking how we would clean it up. The fact is, there is national insurance through the jobs tax, and that's why they have to put up council tax. The truth is, his catastrophic budget has created a domino effect which he cannot now control. We on this side of the House know that you cannot tax your way to growth. But now he's flirting. But now he's flirting. They're all muttering. I remember that budget. They were laughing and cheering. They had no idea the mess that they were creating. They should go and explain to their constituents about why unemployment is going up. But, Mr. Speaker, what is more worrying is that now he's flirting with Neil Kinnock's demand for a wealth tax. Let's be honest about what that means. This is a tax on all of our constituent savings, on their houses, on their pensions. It would be a tax on aspiration. Will the Prime Minister rule this out?
You know, there's a saying, if you do something for 21 days and you do it constantly in 21 days, then you become very good at it. And I believe the opposition leader, Kemi Badenoch, is getting very sharper and sharper at the dispatch box. I know a lot of people might not like her, but she's just growing in her craft. And it'd be great to hear what people say about that. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't see a change for her at this time. And I believe that she's just going to grow and grow. Will she be a prime minister? Well, they said one time a man by the name of Barack Obama would never be the prime minister. So it would never be the president. And he became the president twice. And I do remember a man which was called Donald Trump. They said he will never, ever be president. I remember Tom Hanks say until something goes up and come down, blah, 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 he'll never be president. But he was president once and he's president again. So therefore, anything is possible. Anything is possible. Voters are very fickle at times and anything can happen. So we watch your space as to how Kemi Badenoch perform as well. Let's watch it.
Mr. Fitchie says we shouldn't be asking them for advice on the economy. She's absolutely right about that. We will not be asking for their advice. What we did in the budget was stabilise the economy through the measures taken by the Chancellor. And what has that led to? 4 interest rate cuts. For mortgage holders, that's hugely important. Compare and contrast what happened to the Liz Truss mini budget. The fastest growth in the G7 in the first quarter of this year. Wages up more in the first 10 months of a Labour government than the 10 years under the Tories. So no, we don't need lessons from them.
Mr. Speaker, he says he stabilised the economy. Has he spoken to any farmers recently? Yes. It is time for him to take responsibility for the mess he is making. He has been in office for a year, and all we see is him congratulating himself on what a fantastic job that he has done. Nobody out there believes it. No, not even them. Not even them. What a weak chair. Mr. Speaker, he's congratulating himself. We can compare records. He talks about the fastest growing economy. We left him the fastest growing economy of the G7. We cut the deficit in every year until the pandemic. We got inflation down to 2%. On his watch, taxes are up. Unemployment is up. Inflation is up. And this weak Prime Minister has been forced into a series of chaotic U-turns. Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, the OBR said that our economy is being eroded under Labour. Doctor strikes, tax bombshells, the wealthy leaving in droves. Isn't the truth that under him he is dragging us back to the 1970s?
Mr. Speaker.
Okay, well. That was a very fiery question time yesterday, and it is a very strong performance by Kemi Badenoch. Whether people whether people agree or not, that was a very strong performance by her, and it must be commended. But there's one point which she said, and the point was that when Keir Starmer was saying that things are getting better, but I believe, and what we are getting to understand is that things started to turn just before the election on the Rishi Sunak. Things started to turn, and so therefore Labour sort of inherited a growing economy. This is following from the COVID, following from Ukraine, and following from Brexit. As a matter of fact, they always say Brexit never even had the time to go off the ground. Brexit was still the plane and still running on the runway because things got derailed by the COVID. Then when things are getting sort of back into play, then the Ukraine war as well. So it's a very interesting development which is happening in the UK. So but let's watch the space with Kemi Badenoch. I believe she's one to watch at this time. If I switch over and I touch base on Jamaica before I wrap up and go on to TikTok Live, there's something in Jamaica which I find very interesting, and I've not been able to actually delve into it properly as yet. Not being able to delve into it properly as yet, and what it is about these buses. Yeah, there are these buses which came into Jamaica, which was brought in for over $1 billion or so. These yellow buses, these school buses, which came to Jamaica, and it is becoming a political issue there, where the opposition is not so keen on it, and the government, of course, because they've made investment and they've got them in, is saying that's the right way. I always say this. Key things like transport, key areas like hospitals, health, key areas like crime, key areas like tourism. Always say that both sides should try to see if they can actually come together and come to some sort of agreement. When you talk about like the JPS, which they're talking about, supposed to be licensed, not going to be renewed, something like that shouldn't be done just by the government only, and especially because there's an election which is pending. Something like that should be hushed for a while, or to have some level of dialogue together. The bit regarding the transport, I believe that is something that should be or should have been agreed together and discussed with both sides, both stakeholders. Also bring in teachers or bring in principals. I wonder if JTA has any part to play in the whole process, right? So it seems like now that the government have no choice but to back this and to support this because they have made all these fundamental investment. But I do believe that in areas like these, there should be a coming together, a meeting of the mind that if the JLP loses the next election and if the PNP become the next election, what are they going to do with the buses? What are they going to do with the buses? Are they going to throw the buses away? Export them back? Of course, that's not going to happen. They'll have to live with the buses. So therefore, it would have been good and very prudent if they came together and they worked together in order to try to find an amicable solution with that. The election is pending in Jamaica. The election is due in Jamaica. An election is going to be coming up very soon. And I wish that the 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 level of campaigning. Someone was showing me the other day. He was based in the UK, and he showed me his ID card, and he said he's going down to vote. Oh yes, so lots of people in the diaspora will be going down to Jamaica to vote as well. But I believe that there should have been something stronger and something better. I believe that there should have been the possibility of persons able to go to a Jamaica High Commission or an embassy and vote. Yes, this should be possible. We have been talking about this for years. I've been talking about this for years. There should have been a possibility that they can come together and they can go and vote at the Jamaica High Commission. But as someone said, what you're seeing happening, again, you can call it election tourism. Yeah, election tourism, which is another concept as well. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been thank you so much for joining, and thank you for being a part of this discussion. Let's hope there's food for thought, especially with the policy which has been crafted or pulled together by Keir Starmer and the French president. But at least there was some sort of discussion or some sort of preliminary agreement beforehand, before the press conference, because there was the other one, which was, forget which country it was, whereby there was this sort of plan for there going to be a somewhat of a similar Rwanda style of thing, which was supposed to be happening. And the president, I forget which country, shut down the prime minister. So therefore, these things are not something off the cuff that just started. It is something which was crafted and built from before. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much. And of course, for those who are on TikTok, I'll be going over to TikTok as well. And let me see something here. And Saturday night will be talk and sip. I'm not going to say the sip bit too much because I realize that TikTok do not like certain terminologies, because I have the TikTok app open. Do not like the bit about drinking as well, even though it's just water. And right now I'm just having some tea as well in my cup, which says, "Be still and know that I am God." Yeah, be still and know that I'm God. All right. So that's it. That's it for night. And have a good night. And may God bless you and keep you.